Every week, I'm here talking to you about Sheath Underwear, and this week is no different. Now, I know what you're saying. This guy's probably full of crap. He doesn't really use Sheath Underwear. He's just some kind of paid sponsor guy. Well, guess what? They do pay for sponsorship, but that's different. I actually use the underwear. It's the only one I use. I threw away all my other ones. There's no point in having them. And check it out. Just got a brand new shipment right here. You can check out, not only is it awesomely packaged, got the most comfortable material in the world. You got the dual pouch technology. Penis goes in that hole. Your balls go in there. Keeps everything separated, nice and cool and refreshing. Perfect for sports or activities outside, hiking, MMA, whatever it is that you're into. These are the underwear for you. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can go listen to Bill Burr talk about it on his podcast, or you can listen to Israel Adesanya, the UFC champion. I'm super stoked on this pair because it's got this awesome flower of life pattern. I have it tattooed on my arm. I mean, it's just perfect for me. Go to their website, sheathunderwear.com. Use our promo code RRBG, real simple, the name of the show, and save yourself 20% on your order. At this point, if you're not using Sheath Underwear, it's your loss. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the RRBG podcast, and welcome back to Mr. Ben Weinman. How are you, brother?
Good to see you, man.
Good seeing you too. Last time you were on, I felt like you were in the middle of the movie Twister. You were, you were like, "Yeah, I'm in the middle of a storm in a barn somewhere." I'm like, "What?"
Oh yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah,
that sounds about right. Speaking of the barn, how are all the animals? I mean, apparently you are now a ranger, a farmer. What do you call yourself now?
Ranger. I don't know what I am, man. I'm just trying to keep things from dying all the time.
That's good. That's good.
Children, animals. Yeah, no, they're good. It's been a heat wave and like kind of all over the country. So I've been trying to just keep everyone cool, everyone sheared, and continue to do my other responsibilities as well. But yeah, they're good. I mean, every single animal has a different personality. But I will say sheep are pretty dumb. And it's very hard for me to get attached to most of the sheep because they literally just don't give a shit about you. They're just like run away from you. But I have a couple that are really nice. They got names. So.
Yeah, in Spain, where my family's from, we used to have them like underground. Underneath the house, there would be like a, kind of like a basement with just grass and separations for them. But that's where they would just keep them.
Wait a minute. They had a basement with sheep in them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa. I'm assuming there was like a way in and out from the outside.
Well, yeah. There was a staircase or whatever, but that's where they would hold them overnight. I remember just walking down the street and like, what the hell is that smell? And looking over and you just see them down there like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like, it's just like one more thing to, I've always been somebody that's always worried all the time and anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, even if I had like a dog, I'd always be worried about it. You know, if I was on tour, or if I had to go away, if I thought it was too long in the house, or I go to the bathroom. So now I just added, another 70 anxiety-inducing creatures into my life that I'm worried about fox killing or not having enough. It's like, I don't know what.
And how much land do you have for all this, man? Like, how many acres are we looking at?
9 acres, which, isn't a tremendous amount around here. I mean, there's these farms and houses that have like 40 acres and things like that. It was kind of like, it's not a very old house that we live in, but it's on a very old piece of land. Mm-hmm. And the guy who built it acquired the barn from the neighbor. So that kind of got included. So the barn's from the 1800s.
Oh, wow.
And then there's like ruins on our backyard from the 1700s.
Jeez. Like
1748. And like pre-America, full on like a tavern of some sort. And I had been so busy, I haven't even had time, but I really should like metal detect it or something.
I was gonna say, are you gonna go treasure hunting? Because I'm sure there's something going on.
I did with my son a little just to get him off of the, Roblox or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you're gonna find something, and he just be like he'd dig like 2 inches somewhere and be like, there's nothing here. There's no treasures.
I'm bored. Take me back.
He's like, I'm a kid. I can't work this hard.
Yeah, right. You got to start them young, though. Start them young. You got to work hard.
I got to figure it out, man, because these kids don't work at all.
No.
I mean, they work on like a tablet or something, but they do not want to be outside. They do not want to be swinging in trees and playing in rivers and getting in trouble. I don't understand it. I guess I'm old.
Yeah, we're old, dude, and you know they want technology. They want to, and then their friends, if they go to school or whatever, their friends are going to tell them about it. So it's not like,
yeah, and then they're left out.
Yeah.
And then my son, he's in this camp. He's like, these 12-year-olds are like bullying me and all this stuff. And I'm like, really? Why? And he's like, well, they said a bad word, and I told on them. I'm like, what are you doing? Don't tell on them.
Yeah, that's why they're beating you up.
Don't squeal unless it's a big deal.
Yeah, right.
I mean, and that's the PG version of snitches get stitches, you know?
Right.
I'm like, so he said an F word. Who cares? Ignore him.
Right.
He's not beating a child in the back alley. That's not worth being bullied for the whole year now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, man. It is an interesting time for kids because, you know, you hear adults talk about it all the time with like, oh, it's cancel culture. It's like, but I bet you it's also bad for kids in school, right. and trying to get each other like beat up, or at least in school that you're getting beat up. Cancel culture in adults is just getting blocked on Facebook and
yeah, I'd rather get beat up than my whole career get taken away from me instantly like that.
Right. I've had a couple people that I know that's happened to where I'm like, ooh, that's.
So as a podcaster or something, what's your experience with that stuff? Because I'm sure you've covered subjects that were sensitive. I'm sure you've interviewed people that some would feel, you know, didn't have the right values, or
yeah.
Have you had any experience with that kind of stuff?
I have. I try and be cognizant as much as possible when I have a guest like approach. Somebody, you know, if it's a PR person or something like, hey, I want this guy on your show. Like, I try and, you know, do a quick like Twitter search, like, before I say yes, let me make sure you're not canceled. Yeah, because I don't want to get canceled. I'm not here to. This is not that type of podcast where I'm here to create a scene. You know, like I'm just trying to have conversations, and I don't want to ruin my life in the process. You know, if for some reason I have somebody on who's like a serial, you know, abuser, like, I don't want that. So, but I have had people that, you know. I after the fact, I missed something. Like there was a dude on here. I mean, I'll just call him out because I don't hate him or anything. I just, you know, it's just the fact of a matter that, you know, I talked to the dude from Attila, and then like shortly after I look at, he's snorting people's ashes on stage. I'm like, what?
I heard stuff. For me to know anything about that scene of music in that age range, like, yeah, it has to be pretty. Excuse me. You see, this is what I deal with. Yes? What? Okay. Get some water. Go get some water. Okay. You want to clean it? No? Tell Tristan to help you. We'll get the guy from Attila to snort it up. It'll be all good.
Shit.
He can snort the ashes of a dug up grave. He can snort your water off the ground. Good job. High five. Represent. She's the best farter I ever met. Let me tell you something. One day, we had a little boy over, and he wouldn't really play with her. And so I finally got him to come and watch a movie with her. She laid the biggest ripper I've ever heard, and then looked at him like,
huh?
You hear that? You hear that? Good, right? And he was disgusted. He was disgusted. And she was so confused because I would have been high-fiving. I would have been like, man, you are good.
That's just bad parenting on his parents' part, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Better out than in, jeez.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, no, I mean, there is lines that, you know, I try not to cross because that is your whole career, and I don't want to have to start over at this point.
Of course, and at the same time, you also don't want to nurture like extreme cancel culture, like you don't want to nurture some of that stuff either. That's just damaging.
Yeah.
To conversation.
Yeah.
Discussion. To education, you know?
Yeah, it's a big problem with comedians out here in LA. It's hitting everybody because nobody wants to hear words anymore. So,
Right.
and like I'm not on either side of it either. You know, my wife gets mad sometimes. She's like, "Oh, you're leaning a little too much on the anti-cancel culture." I'm like, "Look, I just want balance. I don't want people to be offensive intentionally to cause damage, but also I want to laugh." You know,
I'm in the same boat. Like, yeah, I get, yeah, like everyone seems to be on an extreme, and I'm not, and so I get criticized from both sides. You know, like I'll have some more conservative people be like, "How can you back the San Francisco gay choir saying they're going to convert your children?" I'm like, they're not saying they're going to convert your children to homosexuality. They're saying they're going to convert your children into tolerant people who appreciate differences and, you know, all that stuff. I know 1,000% back that, and I would love my children to watch that. And they look at me like I'm like some crazy, you know, like someone who thinks that children should take hormones at like 4 years old. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's just the extreme or the extreme. You know, it's like
they don't want you on the fence. They want you to pick a side, man. They want you on their team. You know,
and I think that's a bad thing right now. Yeah, that there isn't any critical thinking conversation.
Yeah, how do we address that, man? Like, do we keep? I mean, because I don't see anything changing in terms of access to information or the internet or people having platforms. I don't see that changing. So
yeah,
I mean, do we even address it, or are we just gonna have to be the old guys that just like go out kicking and screaming like, I'm back in my day?
That's what people. Whenever I say something on social media, they're just like, "All right, boomer, all right," you know, like I'm just some old person.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're right. But there was one particular situation where I reposted something that John Joseph from Cro-Mags posted, which I just thought was hilarious. It was like a picture of Archie Bunker or something.
Oh, you're a woman beater now.
Right. Well, it was a picture of Archie Bunker, and it said something. If you guys saw one of my shows, you would be like crying or something, you know? Because they addressed a lot of social issues. And I was getting people screaming at me, this is a racist show, this is a sexist show. And I started arguing. I'm like, no, that show broke barriers. You know, like the guy who played Archie Bunker is one of the biggest liberals ever, one of the biggest liberals ever. You know what I mean? The point was, it was pointing out ignorance in different generations and stuff like that. And then George Jefferson was the exact same thing as an African American person, and they would and it was like you had Archie Bunker being an ignorant old white person, George Jefferson being an ignorant old black person, and they would make fun of each other, but they like loved each other because ultimately they were the same person.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I stopped because everyone they didn't understand.
Sometimes it's the best option is just back away. Like, I never mind.
I was like, just watch the Sammy Davis Jr. episode of All in the Family. It was genius.
Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah, it's just weird. Some of the things people latch on to. I know they were trying to cancel like Ace Ventura because of that one scene where he's like crying in the shower because he kissed Einhorn. I'm like, guys, you know, it's from The Crying Game. It's a parody of another movie.
It's a reference to a movie, right?
It's just
actually, and you know, I've been watching a lot of Mrs. Doubtfire because my daughter loves it now, which is I realize how amazing that movie is. Yeah, watching it again now, and there was a scene where he, you know, in one sense, his brother. I don't know how long ago you saw this, but his brother, played by Harvey Fierstein, was a gay, you know, married man to another man, and they were the makeup artists who were turning him into Mrs. Doubtfire.
Right. Yeah. I remember that.
This genius scene where they were turning him into different women and all this stuff, and I thought that was really good because, you know, during that time period, it was really showing a loving family member who was looking out for his brother who happened to be married to a man. And this is a time when that wasn't very common, you know? But then there's a scene where Robin Williams is pretending to be different people and call the wife so that he can get her to not hire anybody else. Yeah. And he says one thing where he's like, "You don't have any boys, do you? Because I used to be one." And she hangs up. And I was a little bit uncomfortable about that. I was like, that's not very tolerant. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? As someone who's very, very like anti being too sensitive and too like, I actually even felt a little bit like, man, they just really made out someone who was trans to be.
But that's how it was back then,
like
right?
like dangerous for kids. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, that's how it was back then. And people did not respect it, and you know, you got to give people like Robin Williams credit for bringing those kinds of subjects into the movies too. Like, well, it's not all his credit because directors and writers and whatnot, but like also like Birdcage with Robin Williams. You know, like
exactly, genius movie.
Yeah,
right.
And yes,
and then
they show some parts of that culture in a negative light, but I think it's to point out that people do that, and you know,
and there's all shapes and sizes. It's like one shape doesn't fit all, just like every other sexuality.
Right. Yeah.
You know, just like every other culture, just like every. But I mean, and I also know we're going into some weird tangents here. I don't know what this podcast is about, but I also noticed that there only maybe one bad word in the entire Miss Doubtfire.
Oh yeah.
Like he drops his mask out the window and he says shit.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I was like, that's interesting because like that really meant a lot. Like he's really upset that mask fell off. You know what I mean? Like that was a real shit moment.
Yeah, you get one bad word in a PG-13 movie.
It was like, this is bad. Like my mask just fell out the window, got run over by a truck, and I got to convince this lady I'm a woman. And I thought that was interesting because like now it'd be, and not like I'm trying to be dad. Like I really don't care if people swear in front of my kids. I tell them that's an adult word. Don't say it at the end, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you just learn a lot from watching some of these old movies.
For sure, man. For sure. And we'll see, you know, we'll see. I'm hoping that something changes. I don't know how it will. But I'm hoping that it doesn't just go all the way to one side or the other. That's all I hope for, you know.
Right, me too.
I just want balance. I don't like the scales tipped. And I tell this to my friends too, because they're like, "Why do you always like the villains in the movie?" I'm like, "Because, you know, there's no light without darkness. Like you need to have both."
Yeah.
If everything is happy-go-lucky, how boring is Batman? If everything's good,
exactly. Totally.
Yeah, so it's a weird thought, but so how musically, man, are you doing anything musically? 'Cause I know you're busy. You got kids. You got 100 farm animals. I mean, where do you have time to do music?
Well, mainly my main musical output has been scores for movies.
Okay.
And which was a real lucky thing that it fell in my lap during the pandemic because you know I've been playing with Suicidal Tendencies, and while Suicidal Tendencies isn't like a full-time band like Dillinger was, it was nice to like go out, play a few shows, kick ass, come home. Right. You know, go play a festival with Rancid or Metallica, come home. And I didn't realize how much I needed that until the pandemic. Like those moments of because when Dillinger ended, I was done. I was like, I never care if I step on stage again.
Yeah.
Like I'm done. And then when Suicidal called me, I was like, I can't necessarily say no. It was one of my favorite bands. And last time I saw Mike Muir backstage at a festival, I didn't talk to him because I was completely scared of him. You know what I mean? I was like, this guy's probably Psycho Michael's gonna just step on me.
Yeah.
And then and there he is calling me and being super cool to me. But I couldn't go on tour like I did. And I told them I got young kids and I got the responsibilities now, and it wasn't healthy for me mentally. Like that touring lifestyle really affected me, like my mental health.
I'm sure.
And
especially the type of music you were playing.
Well, yeah, because making those albums was extremely draining. And then the amount of touring we did didn't enable really any of us to have a life outside of that. Mm-hmm. And some of us didn't want that. Like Greg wants to rock, you know, that's what he wants. He doesn't want home base. He doesn't want, he would love to just not exist to the government or not have an address, not have any ties, like just rock all the time. And I respect that about him. Like he knows what he wants and he's a workhorse and he's just has a tremendous amount of output. He's totally prolific, super talented. And it's like really great that he knows what he wants like that. But I was like I'm a family. I'm like a pack animal.
Right.
And I would come home to nothing because I could never nurture anything outside of the band. So, and during some of those realizations, I was seeing people like, Cornell die on tour with me when I was on tour with them. I was seeing, I had played one gig with the Prodigy, and then not long after that, Keith killed himself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I remember he was kind of going through a divorce, but he seemed okay,
Right. Yeah.
And it's just not really for most people, it's not healthy lifestyle.
It's not. It's super, like you said, draining, especially if you are a anxious person already, which, I knew that without knowing you personally. Like I knew that just from your music, just hearing what your output is. I can like, okay, yeah, he's as anxious as I am, because I can, it makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show that music. I'll show Dillinger music to my, some friends or family, and they're like, "What?" I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It makes sense to me though.
to anxious, like ADD people, it calms you more.
Yeah.
Because you don't have time to think about your problems. It's just like, it's pummeling, and that's why I did it. But yeah, I get it.
And I've studied a lot of like mental health and psychology lately, just because for my own reason, my own research, and
Mm-hmm.
now it makes a little bit more sense that you say that about the animals. Like you're compensating for that lack of nurturing that you had on the road. Like now you want to nurture more and give more.
Yeah, it's definitely like I seem to, as I try to make my life more simple, I do things to make it more complicated, just in different ways. But at the same time, I like taking care of people or things.
Yeah.
It's just the animals don't judge. The
Right.
animals don't hold grudges. They let you mess up.
Are you vegan, by the way, as well, or no?
I'm not, but I don't eat meat.
Okay.
And neither does this one here.
Oh, okay. All right. I was going to say, yeah, you probably got some really good eggs and stuff.
Yeah, no, I eat the eggs. We're making some right now. I just
right.
went out, got them, and put them in this like egg cooker right now.
Nice.
So
Nice.
right now.
And then also musically, I saw you put out a couple, Patreon exclusive things,
Mm-hmm.
right? Are you still doing that? Are you still working on stuff like that too?
I am. I got to do more. It's like people are like, why don't you just put songs out all the time and just make money? And it does help me with the animals and things like that. But man, it's like I posted something on Instagram that Rick Rubin quoted about artists being sensitive and like emotional, and people don't get it. Like they feel everything. And it spoke to me a lot, and I reposted it. And I was telling somebody, like, they're like, why don't you put more music out? I'm like, because it's violent. Like I feel I don't want to just put out anything all the time, just anything. Even if it makes money, I feel it's not easy to put yourself out there. It's not just like dump shit out.
Right.
Whatever, you just make something and put it out. And for some people it is easy, but it's definitely it's an emotional, mental undertaking to even put yourself out there.
Do you concern yourself with, like, if you put it out, what are people, do you care what the people think? Like, oh, they're going to shit on it because it doesn't sound like Dillinger or something,
I mean, you try not to, and I've gotten better at it. Thank you. And I spent a good year on the final Dillinger tours working on trying to get rid of my ego as much as possible. Mm-hmm. Just because I knew I was preparing myself to not be someone who anyone cares about. Like, I had no intentions of being in a band or being in the spotlight. I was going into more behind the scenes stuff where it wouldn't be about me. It would be about an artist I'm managing or something. And also because I didn't want to care about what people thought about me. It's a healthier place to be content without needing applause. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And I worked really hard to get there, and I've come a really long way. I really have. Like, I really don't give a shit how many people are in front of me when I play. And I play a little bit, but it's more like an outlet. It's not because I need recognition. I don't care if anyone ever recognizes me. I don't want to do signings. I appreciate talking to people, but I've definitely gotten to a point where I'm pretty good at not needing that validation, but it's still, anyone who says it doesn't bother them when someone shits all over your stuff or doesn't like it is full of shit.
Yeah.
They're full of shit, like it's not possible.
Yeah. Even myself, like I try not to look at the comment section. It happens, but
of course, yeah, you can't, you do, but you can't. And like one of the reasons why I have kids is because it's the only time you lose your ego. It's the only time. Like you always have it. You can try to be some Zen, yogi guy or whatever and be like, bullshit. You care, it upsets you. When what people think of you upsets you. If people like you, all that stuff upsets you. But when you run out in the street and push your kid away from a car, despite what it will do to you, you have no ego. It's gone. It just disappeared. You just go.
Yeah.
And it's the only time in your life you will not, that ego will disappear. The only time when you go like take care of a kid despite your own well-being.
No, I agree.
So
I agree completely.
I wanted to try that.
Yeah, I might try that at some. I might try that at some point just to see.
It's not for everybody,
but yeah, that's. I'm glad that you found that, man. I'm glad that you found that for yourself. Like you said, other musicians ended up, taking their lives because they couldn't find that. So I'm glad that you did find it. It's a rough. Yeah, man. I mean, it would be obviously it's a shame when anyone dies, but it would be a shame when someone as talented as yourself can, just gives in to that demon, that one mental demon that so many people, that we know, have. It's unfortunate.
I mean, I struggle with it still every day. It's a lie if I said I didn't. And, so
but you do the best you can with it, right?
Right.
So let's just go ahead and talk about it. You reached out to me because I had Aaron North on, and I had no idea, to be honest with you. Like when I had him on, it was more of like, oh, my friend knows him, and Nine Inch Nails. I'm like, this is cool, comedy, whatever. And he shared some stories.
He's funny.
Yeah, he shared some stories where he mentioned you and a special article in Spin magazine and whatnot, and you reached out to me, which I thought was awesome. Like that's what people should do. It shouldn't be some kind of like internet beef or whatever. Like let's talk about it. So tell me your side of the story.
Well, I've known you and we've had good talks, but like someone like literally forwarded me to that section of the interview. And I listened to it. I'm like, well, and like, I guess one of the things that bothered me is some of the stuff we're talking now is like, I remember when they asked me to do that, it was so long ago, man. And you look back at yourself and you're like, man, I wish I did things differently, whatever. You can't beat yourself up over it. But I definitely feel a little ashamed of how I represented myself in that interview. The truth is like, a lot of people I knew were very disappointed in Aaron. At that point, we weren't even talking at all, and he gave his side of that story. I have mine,
Yeah.
If anyone wants to care to hear it, whatever. But the truth is I shouldn't have engaged in that at all. It was none of my, because like at that time he had obviously, as he admits, gotten into some, I think it was painkillers and alcohol or something. Mm-hmm. And it was part of, I think, what led him to not be in Nails anymore. And then, as friends of Aaron, we all kind of were surprised because after getting that Nails gig, he had a ticket to do whatever he wanted. Like you're in Nine Inch Nails, you could go play, you can be in a band with a guy from Queens of Stone Age, or you know what I mean? You have all this cachet now. And he never went on to do anything. And I think mostly because he was having those struggles. And I was having struggles too. I just didn't have the self-awareness to really understand it,
Right.
And just because I didn't get hooked on painkillers or whatever doesn't mean I wasn't struggling and dealing with it wrong,
Sure. Yeah.
like things like that, and treating people wrong and things like that. And I think I was a little insensitive to mental health stuff by like kind of like criticizing him for his actions. And I know that there were a lot of people, he had done things to people, and it wasn't really my business because I wasn't, it wasn't really my business because, you know, I wasn't in any of those bands, but a lot of people were disappointed with how, you know, he had like disappeared and locked people's gear up, and there was rumors of him taking people's stuff and selling it or whatever. It was none of my business, you know?
Yeah.
It was none of my business, and I shouldn't have dipped in that Kool-Aid.
Right.
Without really having the opportunity to talk to him and see how he's doing, you know? So I was ashamed of myself for that.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, it's tough, dude. Like you said, if you don't know what you're dealing with, you know, especially like the way I grew up suppressing any of those psychological issues. Like I always, I was taught that it was, you know, that's, you don't worry about that. Go get to work. You know,
right.
I mean, that's none of, you don't need to worry about whatever's going on in here. You'll deal with that later.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that, you know, being in that environment too, man, like, you know, people think that just because you're in a band like that, or you're in a band like Dillinger, that, you know, you're some kind of god, like some rock god or whatever. It's like, no, you're a human being dealing with the fact that you're in this incredibly popular situation. People are going crazy. And it's got to be daunting mentally. So, you know, I get it. You know?
Well, I think some of us were, who knew him, like he was like one of my closest friends. And it was because he was a guy in LA who was not an LA guy.
Right.
Like that's what was so great about him. He was straight edge around all kinds of heroin addicts and people who were just being, you know, jerks. He never cared what anyone thought of him, ever, no matter how important they were.
Right.
And that was always like so refreshing. He was just like, he really was like a rarity in Hollywood, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, he has his side of the story of what had the falling out, but you know, my story is that, number one, I did try out for Nine Inch Nails. Him saying I was hiding it from the band is ridiculous because Greg is the one who hooked it up through Atticus because they had been in Error together, this band Error.
Yeah, I remember Error.
Atticus reached out to Greg and asked if I'd be interested. I was in Europe, and they're like, you got to come right now. It's Nine Inch Nails. And I'm like, I have commitments to Dillinger. I can't. So if the audition's still there when I'm done with touring, call me. But Greg was the one passing this information to me, like back and forth, through Atticus, his friend, who's now, you know, who was working with Trent on everything. And then when I got home from tour, Atticus, they had picked somebody else. They got some guy. He was like all goth and, you know, had dreadlocks and looked perfect, you know, for a Nine Inch Nails thing.
Right.
But I think they must have done it prematurely. And while I was on tour, they picked him. He was working with, they may have even announced it somewhere. I don't know. And then when I got home, Atticus emailed me and said, the guy didn't work out. Can you come tomorrow?
Wow.
To try out tomorrow. I was like, I mean, you don't say no.
Right. Yeah.
When Nine Inch Nails says come, and they were one of my favorite bands too. So
yeah, you figure it out.
Right. So I remember. I think this story is funny. It's interesting. So I was listening to the music, and I'm like, I have no idea what's a guitar, what's a synth through distortion,
a squirrel underwater.
Especially those earlier things. It was so innovative.
Yeah.
Like you didn't know if it was a flute through a freaking Marshall amp. Like finding guitar parts was so hard. So I remember I listened to the Fragile DVD album that Robin Fink is the perfect guitar player for Nine Inch Nails. The perfect guitar. He is perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He should have always been in Nine Inch Nails. He wasn't in it because he was in Guns N' Roses, committed to Guns N' Roses for a second. So I just listened to his parts and did my best in like one night to learn what I could of his parts. And then I called Aaron. They're like, we're flying you out. Do you want to be in a fancy hotel? I'm like, I'd rather stay with my friend Aaron. You know, I don't need a fancy hotel. So I stayed with Aaron, and, you know, we had some good talks. I remember the poor guy had like just ketchup in his car. I opened his fridge. There was just ketchup in it. That's it.
Just condiments.
You know, like, yeah, he was just like always struggling, always. And Buddy had turned down money all the time to like not sell out. Like it was inspiration. He was an inspiration. They were both they were inspirations to me, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, I blew the fucking audition. I didn't know the songs. I figured parts that were, he didn't want them. He wanted new parts. I learned the old part. It was comical. Like I made jokes and they were just like, who the fuck are you making jokes? You know what I mean?
Okay.
I said, you know what I said? I said, I remember Trent says, and I can say all this because now I'm friends with him, you know, and that happened well after all this. I said, he goes, what do you want to start with? And I said, and at this point they had apparently finished a new album, but they didn't announce a name or anything. And I said, first of all, before we say any music, I have some ideas for the name of the album. Like, obviously, like, I'm just dude walking in. Like, it's a joke. Come on, Alex, stop it. I'm on a phone. You know how kids want to play an instrument just when you're there and they'll never touch it when you want them to?
Right, yeah.
Just when you're on a phone.
They just want to they want your attention. That's what it is.
They don't want my attention, yeah. So I totally blew it. I looked like a hardcore dude, completely like. I think I had like a freaking. I probably had like a snap case shirt on or something.
Did you
like,
show up with a Poison the Well jersey?
Totally. I looked like so not the part. Like.
Yeah.
And then also one of the reasons I heard many reasons why I didn't get it, and it's all good. Like. But one of the reasons I heard was because I did say to them, look, I still am in Dillinger Escape Plan. That would be an issue for me. Would there be any way like we could ever tour together? Mm-hmm. And I got so reprimanded for that. Like,
how dare you?
They're like, you do not bring that up to Trent ever. If you get this gig, anything you did before does not exist. It's irrelevant. Now you're, you know what I mean? And like, it was very like bad mark for me to even bring up just staying in Dillinger and trying to work something out. Like that was like, you just basically just lost your, like,
yeah. Is that Trent? Is that Trent back there playing the piano right now? Because it sounds like the end of Closer.
Like, some gradual. Yeah.
No, but yeah, that's crazy though, man. That it was. I mean, I guess it makes sense when you're in a band like Nine Inch Nails. It's a machine, It's like
and I get it now. Yeah. I get it. Like if some guy in like a much smaller band was trying to join Dillinger and they're like trying to work out their little band to fit, and I'd be like, dude, you're doing this or you're not. Like, you know what I mean? Like that band doesn't matter anymore. Like it's cool, it got you where you are, but And at that point, Trent had never heard Dillinger. He didn't know anything about Dillinger. I was just suggested by Atticus.
Right.
I was a suggestion. They're like, this guy is awesome. You got to try him out. So, there's some inaccuracies to Aaron's story.
Okay.
And there's some truth to it. It doesn't matter. There's always, but the reason why we had a falling out is because when I did go to see Nine Inch Nails with him, he was like not the Aaron we all knew. He was looking over my shoulder for more important people. He was like, at that time, I didn't realize he had started drinking and things like that because it wasn't him. It was not him. Like, where did Aaron go? And I didn't know that he had started having some issues. So it didn't make sense to me.
Right.
Like, it wasn't the same guy, and I remember the first time I saw them, they were playing the new album, which I wasn't that into. And I said, oh, man, I wish you played like Fragile. I was like listening to the Fragile nonstop at that point. And I was like, man, I wish you played the Fragile, not that album. I don't want to hear that new album, like just kind of sarcastic. Then the rumors were like, he's talking shit on Nine Inch Nails and the music. I was like, what? I was just saying I wanted to hear more of this album. I heard last night you did more of that album. I wish I was here last night because that was the set I wanted to hear. Right. You know what I mean? Then it became he's jealous and all this shit. So then Nine Inch Nails was in Canada. We were playing in Toronto. They had a day off. Aaron didn't come see us play, our old friend, buddy,
Right.
But Trent and Atticus came and saw us play. And which was amazing. I remember we were on tour Between the Buried and Me, and Trent Reznor walks down with 2 security guards. And I remember Between the Buried and Me were like, holy shit, because it was the dumpiest backstage ever. It was like pipes dripping and like, and they were like blowing up, like, whoa, this dude with 2 giant security guards just walked down in this dump. And we were all like blown away, you know, and he was super nice. And we talked about the audition and stuff. And then we played. And of course, I made sure I was fucking an animal on that show, you know,
Right.
like this is what I really do, you know? And like, you know, after that, he was all about Dillinger. He was all about me. You know, he told Atticus I was like one of the best guitar players he's ever seen. And it was all very amazing, and it all made me feel so much better that like he became a fan of my band as opposed to, you know, me screwing up my band that was mine and just to like try out for this band that I loved and was a huge influence and still is. And I was really proud of Aaron because he was a guy who just had ketchup in his freaking thing and really didn't have much of a band going on. I was like, this is amazing, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, it was just a stupid thing. And, you know, it was a lot of he said, she said from our friends, stuff like that. And at one point, we went to the show, the Nine Inch Nails shows afterwards, and I had heard he was saying that I was like jealous and all this stuff, which really bothered me because I really was really proud of him.
Yeah.
So I went up to me and Chris went up to him. Me, Chris, and Greg went up to him, and I said, "I heard you're upset that like I said I didn't really like the new album as much, and I wanted to hear the other album." And I was like, "Dude, it was just I think you misread me, you know."
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "That's cool. I think Miss Machine sucks. I only like Calculating Infinity." Like right in front of Greg, you know?
Yeah.
And
that's kind of shitty.
And I'm like, well, that's cool because I wrote both of them, so I'll take either. That's what I said. I remember. And he was drinking Coke, but now I know it obviously was not just Coke.
Right.
It was not just a cup of Coke. Now I know. Looking back, it all makes sense. And then he goes, "I don't give a shit. I fuck models now. I make a lot of money." That's what he said to me. And me and Chris Penny looked at each other like, fuck this. And we're like, we're out of here. And we left. And we're like, Greg, come on. And Greg's like, I think I'm going to hang back. I'm hanging out backstage with the Rocks. You know, and Chris and I we were disappointed in Aaron. We were a little disappointed in Greg, but whatever. And we left. And that was the end. That was the last time I had talked to him before, you know, everything came out that he was having struggles. And so, you know, but at the end of the day, like, I really wish I could have been there for him more during those times. I wish I understood it more. I know I probably could handle things. I look back and, you know, once you get more handle of yourself and you get more involved, you look back and you're like ashamed of how you handle things. Like I think of that all the time, you know, but I just, you know, I still think I still have great feelings for Aaron. I still remember all those good times, and it sounds like he's doing well now. And so I'm really happy for him. And that's it, you know?
I hope you
guys. I'm sorry if anything came off wrong, and I'm sorry about that spin article because it was insensitive. I think it was insensitive.
Yeah, I hope you guys can hash it out, man. I really do. I hope you guys can reconnect and just maybe talk it out because it just sounds to me like a lot of, you know, like you said, not everyone should be drinking. You know, I'm not like, I don't criticize anyone for drinking. I don't criticize people for being sober, you know, but there are certain people that when they have one drink, they change completely. And it's it's not their fault. It's just chemicals.
Right. It's metabolizing. It's mixed with a pill or something, even prescribed.
Yeah.
It's whatever. And I mean, I've taken prescribed depression, anxiety medication. It's changed my life. And I get criticized by people like Mike Muir. You know, he's very against that.
Yeah.
You know, Juliette Lewis was living at my house for a while making music. She's a Scientologist. She was very against it, you know?
Yeah.
It is what it is. But you do what you got to do. And
yeah, you got to do what you got to do to help your mental health, man, because it just sounds to me like what you're saying, your side of the story for Aaron, it just sounds like mental struggles with, you know, not jealousy, but just kind of like self-esteem kind of. And like, that's kind of like an attack like that. It sounds like something I would see like as a self-defense mechanism. Like, oh, whatever, I fuck models now. Like that's.
Yeah, it was just a like kind of substance and, you know, kind of off.
Yeah.
Like,
Like whether there's fact behind it or not, it was just kind of like an attack. It was just kind of like whatever, fuck off.
Yeah, he probably doesn't remember. He's like, whatever, dude. I fuck models now. And the thing is like I would have backed that if he said it to those people who were assholes to him all the time when he was nothing.
Right.
I would have been like, high five, like serve. But to me,
yeah,
like I was there when he was nothing.
Yeah.
So that was upsetting.
I see. Yeah, it sounds like young, upsetting, kind of just bickering that doesn't really have much substance in terms of real hatred. Like I think you guys can have a conversation and hash it out. So it seems to me like the whatever beef is, like it's not real solid, like anger, like he didn't sleep with your wife, like he didn't, like there's none of that stuff. Like it's just bickering amongst friends and amongst, situational ego, not real ego, just situational ego because of where he was, where you were, also the alcohol and the prescriptions. Like it just seems consequential. Like I think you guys can definitely, if you had a real friendship before that there could be some reconciliation.
I'm here for him.
Cool.
If he ever needs me, because I still remember the guy he was, and he's still there. He might be, it sounds like he's doing well, and he's still fucking sarcastic and funny and the same old dude. Like obviously he told me to fuck myself, so like back that. That's the Aaron I knew.
Yeah. Well, shit, man. I appreciate you, reaching out to me to talk about it. And, I'm glad to hear that you are also doing better mentally and you're feeling better.
What about you, man? How are you doing?
I'm good, dude. I mean, gotta keep the grind going as you do. I'm feeling good. I let the demons catch up with like, oh, nobody's watching the show, or nobody's paying attention, and blah blah blah. So, I just I got to get over that and forget about numbers. It's all social. I blame social media.
I know, and everything's about data and numbers now. Sucks.
Yeah, but mentally, I'm good. I miss you guys. I mean, I miss watching you guys perform. That was a big part of my life for a while, for many years. From the beginning, it was just kind of, I can always count on, I'm going to go see Dillinger or Every Time I Die, and every time I die is still there. So that's,
you're still at it. Yeah,
that's good. But it's. I do miss seeing you guys perform, but I'm also, as an adult, happy that you're not playing shows anymore, because I can't physically go into the pit anymore and damage myself the way I used to.
Pussy.
Yeah, I'm 40 now. I'm not wearing shin guards like you. I'm getting I'm getting damaged, and I'm physically happy that I don't have to.
Man, you gotta get some, like, just put on one of those like motocross like outfits and put some big ass,
show up with a football outfit, like just the shoulder.
Just cover it with like some big ass old hardcore, metal shirt and pocket, maybe some like Jankos or something over it.
Yeah. It was funny. What I always loved about your shows was that it wasn't usually at shows, the pit I worry about behind me or whatever, like people punching or kicking or crowd surfers. With you guys, it was you. Or like, whoever was the second guitar at the time, like Tuttle or whoever, was just flying from the stage into my face. And I'm just like, oh shit. And
but it's kind of a pussy move, because I would have much rather been the guy flying than the guy getting hit. So.
Right. Yeah, man. But
so I give you the credit.
I remember carrying you for like a whole song in Orange Peel, because you jumped right on my... You jumped right on top. I'm like, okay, well.
I remember that. I remember you turned around and so your face was in my balls and you started sniffing. And I thought that was odd.
Yeah.
You start sniffing and be
yeah, right. I got to absorb.
No, I remember you carrying me all around the room. I remember that.
Yeah, it was good times. Those are good times.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, thank you for asking. I am doing all right. I'm doing all right. We're not,
good.
There are, like I said, there's days, but they're far and few between, and I know what to do to kind of deal with them, which is usually just crying.
You know what? Nothing like good cry.
Yeah, got to get a good cry in, but But dude, thanks again for reaching out. I hope to hear some more Patreon exclusive content from you soon.
Yeah, and also the movie. I guess I could plug it.
Yeah, plug the movie.
For Tyrese Malkovich film that's out now. Shut up.
What's the film called?
It's called Rogue Hostage.
Okay.
It's just like a kind of fun crappy action movie, you know.
Okay.
And then I actually just finished another score for a movie called The Survivalist, which isn't out yet, but that's going to be really cool. It's like a post-pandemic kind of thing. Also with John Malkovich and Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, and it's like about 4 years after COVID. 4 years from now, COVID has mutated a whole bunch of times, and everyone's dying.
Oh boy!
Like nobody can survive it. And Malkovich somehow breaks the fever and gets over it, and becomes kind of like a what do you call it? Like when people follow you, like a
messiah type of thing, or
some kind of David Koresh motherfucker.
Okay.
And so he has these following of people who are like, oh my God, you beat the virus, you're the only one. And then there's one girl out there that apparently can't get it. And so he's basically trying to go rape her and make children and make a new race of a new group of people that can
survive it.
Yeah. So it's like, that's what it is. But it's I really enjoy doing it. So
that's cool, man. That's great. So will we know that it's scored by you when we hear it? Is my question. Like, does it sound like Ben, or does it sound like just scores?
Everybody I play was like, it's like, it might be like strings and things like that, but like, oh, that's totally
okay. All right.
That's totally yeah.
That's good. So if anybody wants to become a part of the Patreon, what's the Patreon? And what are you offering them? Like, plug your Patreon.
Yeah, it's just patreon.com/Ben Weinman. And it's just like, basically I when I make a song, it goes out, and whatever tier you're in, your card gets charged. If I don't make a song, you don't get charged. Cool. And, you can do anything from $1 and just get the music to, a little more of a donation that helps the animals, and you get a little more, to something where you get, there's some couple things, options. And it's really just a way for me to keep making music and helps me with these animals that are extremely expensive.
Yeah. And you're still doing stuff with Party Smasher as well? You're
still managing? Mostly on the management side, like I'm managing Kimbra, and she is just finished a new album, almost finished, which is amazing. And we're going independent with it.
Nice.
Which is nice. So she was all in that major label world. Then I came in and said, let's try some new things.
Nice. That's cool. So yeah, keep an eye out for Party Smasher, everybody that's watching and listening. Also, if you're a Dillinger fan, every once in a while, just go ahead and Discog whatever vinyl you have from you guys. Because I found out the other day, I have a One of Us is the Killer that's like $600. I'm like, what?
Really?
What the fuck? Yeah. It was one of the variants, one of the and I didn't seek it out. It was just the one I bought, and apparently it's rare. And I don't know, and it's worth $600 or some shit like that. It's not like I'm going to sell it ever, but it's still it's interesting to know.
That came from us is expensive. That's cool. It makes me feel cool. Like I used to think those albums were so man, that Gorilla Biscuits, or that's so rare. It's, so cool. When something was rare and worth money or something.
Yeah, there's a couple, man. I was looking because I recently decided to just be OCD and catalog all my records, and then I ran into the fact that record is like $600. There's a couple that are like $200 or $300. Like, what the fuck?
Maybe I do have a college fund for my kid if I look through my vinyl.
Yeah, go check out your storage. I mean, you don't know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
But cool, man. Yeah. And also, so, I don't know if you don't do much on social media except for videos of you with your animals.
I post stuff. I don't know, man. There's sometimes I find some cool pictures of Dillinger or suicidal stuff. Just whatever. It's nothing real. No real agenda there. You know?
Are you gonna get back on the road with Suicidal after all of this when everything gets back up and
We do have
running?
a few things booked, like Hellfest in France, some Metallica festival, but it's not much. There's not a whole lot booked, so I hope it starts to pick up.
Cool. And I guess the last thing, you know, once your kids are a little more grown and you got some more free time, do you think you'll end up being in a band again, like full time? Probably not.
I don't know, man. You know, like I felt I never wanted to play a show again, and now I'm enjoying the Suicidal gigs. So
That's true. Things change.
I don't know if I'll ever run a band again. You know, like I feel like there's two things. You either say, I'm doing this project. It's my project. Do you want to play in it? I will take your suggestions and I respect you, but I may not listen. In or out. Or it's your thing. What do you want? I'm here to serve. You know, and like I may do one of the above someday, right. But like democracies and all that stuff, it's too hard. It's too stressful.
I hear you.
You know.
Well, cool, man. Hey, go have breakfast. Thank you so much for the time again, and you know we'll probably do this again down the road in another year or
Anytime,
so.
Anytime, man. I love talking to you.
All right, brother. Take care, man.
Bye.
Take care. Cheers. Thanks.